Throughout history, freethinkers have outraged the religious with their wacky ideas about the virtues of free speech, reason, and of course, eating babies. Now, God is dying, and it's time to dispose of his remains. From the pits of hell, Satan sends two puppets of the imperialist West and the Zionist Jews against God, Islam, and tiny kittens to bring you their propaganda and conspire for a new world order. This is Secular Jihadists for a Muslim Enlightenment with Ali Rizvi and Armin Navabi.
Welcome everybody to another episode of Secular Jihadists for a Muslim Enlightenment. My name is Ali Rizvi and I am with the great Armin Navabi. As always, Armin is the author of Why There Is No God, and he is also the founder of Atheist Republic, which is the largest online platform for atheists in the world with over 2 million. Are you over 2 million now?
Oh, yeah.
You've been over 2 million for a while. Yeah. So anyway, he's back. He's pretty revved up about this episode because I think we're going to touch on one of his favorite topics. And we have the perfect guest for that. Today, we're welcoming to the podcast, Erin Jones. Erin, welcome to the podcast the first time.
Thanks for having me. Yeah.
And so Erin, you're from Nashville, Tennessee.
I am.
You are you're a mom with four grown kids, and you grew up in a sort of a conservative Christian, right? And you were a youth minister in the Assembly of God Church for about 6 years, and you were Christian for 35 years. Yeah. And then last year in June, in 2019, you converted to Islam.
I did.
And that journey, we're going to hear about that more, and it's continuing. You're sort of center and left leaning politics, and you're also leaning towards like a reformist Muslim group, like in the lines of along the lines of Maajid, Nawaz, and Irshad, Manji, and those people. So I think this is going to be, you're the perfect person to have here because I have so many questions to ask you, and you also. You also said your parents were sort of diehard Christians.
Oh yeah, Trumpian
Republicans and all that, and so you turned out different. So let's start from the beginning. How did you grow up? So what were your parents like? What was your family like?
Well, I'm an only child, so it was pretty. Old school situation. My dad worked, my mom stayed home. We actually grew up in kind of a low income, high minority neighborhood. But my parents sent me to private Christian school because the schools in my neighborhood were so bad. So I pretty much got the Bible at home, I got the Bible at church, and then I got the Bible every day at school. So it was a very conservative, Republican starch environment.
And you grew up, so you were like that for 35 years, and then, so how did you? I guess I'm just curious to see what your journey was, and was it a gradual process that you eventually started moving out of Christianity or becoming more center left or less conservative? Or was it sudden?
I remember my dad was very political growing up when I was growing up. And I remember going to we would go work Republican campaigns. And I was always a part of either some sort of Christian function or a Republican function. It felt like there was always that was just our life. And it wasn't until I would say my high school years that I started questioning a lot that I was hearing coming from them politically. I wouldn't say religiously yet, but politically I was questioning a lot.
What kind of things were you questioning?
Sorry, my cat's in something over there. Honestly, it is like the worst thing to bring up first, but there was a lot of racism that was not even claimed as racism. It was the whole, we're not racist, but kind of mentality that really started rubbing me the wrong way. That's the first thing that I remember was the race issue. And then I started getting vocal about it, and that didn't go over very well.
So your parents, did that cause a fracturing of the relationship? Do you have a good relationship with them now, or?
There is a lot of love and there is a lot of respect on both ends, but they're not okay with where I am. No, they're not okay with it at all.
And they tell you?
They don't have to. It's more of a, well, they didn't talk to, after I converted, they didn't talk to me for 4 months.
Wow.
They just didn't talk to me.
So was it that, so you had the political sort of conversion in a sense?
The political conversion was first, and then I was working in the church, the same church that they went to, and it seemed like every time I turned around, I was questioning something of the staff, pastors, things that were being done. I felt like I was always opposing something that was going on at the church. And
so wait, so when you say you didn't talk to you for 4 months, was this after your political conversion or after?
No, that was Islam.
Islam.
Yeah,
when you converted to Islam.
After Islam.
Okay.
Yeah. So one day. Well, one day the pastor that I worked underneath, he just finally said to me, if you have this much of a problem with something all the time here in the church, then why are you here? And I was like, yeah, why am I here? So.
And what made you consider Islam?
I always had questions about Christianity. I always questioned the Trinity, and I always questioned whether Jesus was actually God, because that's pretty much the way that they see it. I couldn't reconcile those things. They didn't make any sense to me whatsoever. No matter who answered those questions for me, it just didn't make any sense. So I mean, do you want me to tell my conversion story now, or do you want me to hold off on that? Or
sure.
Well,
sure, let's hear.
It was during a time when my husband and I we came very close to getting divorced. In April, we'll have been together 10 years. He and I have asked his permission before I go down this road, so he knows what I'm saying. He had basically a mental breakdown, and he did not work for a few years. And I did everything I could to try to help him get through and move past and be an active part of our family. And it just was not happening. And I was to the point of considering divorce, which was just the farthest thing from what I wanted. And I met a Muslim, which is not very easy to do here in Nashville, Tennessee.
Yeah, Tennessee. It was like, wow. This is Mitch McConnell's state. Yeah.
I met a Muslim that, and it was a guy, and we just hit it off right away. He was just a super friendly, just super sweet person. And the more we got to be friends, I started talking to him about, the situation because he knew something was wrong with me. And I said, this is what's going on at home, and I don't know how to fix it. And he was just always there to give this really sound advice on, here's what I would do to fix it. And his manner and his, he just always had this very solid, calm manner to him. And after a couple months, it got to where I wasn't curious about what he had to say about how can I fix this situation at home. It was, what is it that's making him constantly so calm and so well-mannered? And it was, it's like the Quran says, your manners is that's what people are going to notice. And that's exactly how it happened for me. So I was not looking for anything besides Christianity. I was just trying to resolve all my issues with Christianity and stay in it. But when I met him, I got really curious about what it is that he believes that causes him to behave this way pretty much all day, every day. It was so unwavering.
Yeah.
So,
No,
let's continue. No, you continue.
Yeah. No, I just want to get one thing just because I want to visualize. So he was he an American-born Muslim? Was he from overseas, from another country? Was he convert or?
No, he is Palestinian. And he was born here. His parents were from Palestine though. He stays over there a lot. He stays over there, I think, like 2 months out of the year, but mostly he's here. Yeah.
Right.
And did you? What was the process of you becoming a Muslim? Did you talk to him and you considered it? Was there a moment? Go on.
Or was he religious? Was he?
No, let's just go on. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I would think that he would be what you call Muslim-ish.
Okay.
Yeah, he's born Muslim. He's incredibly devout, but he's not over the top and in your face with it. So yeah, I wanted to know about it a little bit. I wasn't looking to read the Quran. I just wanted to hear from him what the basics were of it. And he kept telling me how much Islam reveres Jesus. And as a Christian, I was like, sure. Sure. But the more he talked about it, I was like, you know what? I'm an intellectual. Why am I not reading this book? I mean, it's there. I can find out for myself. I had no intentions of converting. And it was about an hour into my first night reading, and I just sat there and wept. And I was like, I did not expect this, whatsoever. And I'm going to cry now. I finished, I started the Quran in April. Then I went through Ramadan. So he was like, you don't have to go through Ramadan. You don't have to do that, man. I was like, I'm going to do this. So I finished the Quran and went through Ramadan, and 3 days after Ramadan was over this past year, I converted. I made my shahadat.
So, you did your shahadat. Did you do it alone, or did you do it with him?
During those couple of months, I actually had gotten introduced to a Muslima that lives here in town by another friend of mine, and she actually did that for me. She invited me and my children over, and she performed it with her and her children there too.
So what made you cry when you read the Quran? What was it about it that impacted you so much?
There was a lot. My own misconceptions. Having my own misconceptions cleared up for me. Having all the questions that I had about Christianity answered, finally. So many people think that it's so different from Christianity, but for me, it was like an extension. It was like, okay, now I'm seeing what I've been looking for.
Can you give some example of some of the misconceptions that
Or the questions that you had.
Yeah, it helps you clarify. The Quran helps you.
Sure.
Clarify. Are you okay?
As far as yes, I'm fine. I actually have been sick, so like my voice is probably going to go in and out some. So this is like the second day I haven't been coughing.
Right, but you sound great so far.
No, you sound great, but you're also, it seems like I can see the powerful effect that the Quran had on you, because even now that you're talking about it, it moves you. So it had a real impact on you, which is very fascinating.
Yeah.
Yeah. But go on, sorry.
Okay, so the reconciling with myself who Jesus actually was and what his purpose was. Not being told that he had to suffer for me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because no matter how much I loved God, there was a part of me that was so angry for letting him go through that.
Mm-hmm.
So you couldn't understand why God would let his son suffer like that. And
right.
Islam, for people that don't know in our audience, is what Islam teaches is that it wasn't Jesus that went on the cross. Somebody else was made to look like Jesus, and Jesus did not suffer on the cross. Jesus was alive, and the person that was on the cross was a lookalike of a Jesus that God
a decoy.
Yeah.
Somebody that betrayed Jesus, and God made him look like Jesus, and they crucified him instead. So part of your conversion was because of your love for you really love Jesus, and you think God betrayed his son, and the first thing that grabbed your attention seems to be the fact that Islam has a lot of respect for Jesus. So it's a lot about Jesus that made you accept Islam.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, that's go ahead.
And I had a hard time. It always felt like there was so much emphasis put on Jesus that there was so little emphasis put on God. And I knew that of course I know this is different for you all. You don't even believe in God, but for me personally, I could not understand why it felt like we were putting God on the back shelf and putting all the emphasis on Jesus. And it finally made sense to me how it was supposed to go.
So that's another actual difference between Islam and Christianity. Whereas in Christianity, as you mentioned, there's the Trinity, and Jesus is supposed to be the Son of God.
Right.
In Islam, the whole idea of God is kind of inert. It's his own entity. He doesn't. He begets not, nor is he begotten. That's some. One of the statements in the Quran, so that he did not have a son, and Jesus was just a human being. And again, for our listeners who don't know, in Islam, the belief is that Jesus was obviously very revered, and he was lifted up, and he is with God, and the belief is that he will return later on. So you still have the idea that Jesus will return, as you do in Christianity, but he's not going to die and return. He's going to come sort of de novo.
Has converting to Islam helped you?
I mean, in some, yes. It's caused issues as well, but yes. And I mean, there's still a lot of questions, and I don't know that there ever won't be. I feel like I've always questioned everything all the time. So I don't see myself just getting settled and being like, well, that's it, I've got it all. But yeah.
So what are those questions? No, before I ask you what are those questions, you were going to say, how has it helped you?
I'm more peaceful. I'm able to accept the good and the bad easier. and I should have been able to do that in Christianity, and it just wasn't as easy for me.
By the way, Azad in the live chat is sending you hearts and hugs.
Thanks. I did not expect to cry. I'm supposed to be laughing on here, guys. What's the matter?
We're gonna we'll get to that too. But I have to tell you, I think that this is what you're saying here is really important. I feel that within our atheist community, there's this sort of sense that, okay, this is rational, this makes sense, this doesn't make sense, so why can't you just change your mind? But people don't realize what people have lived with, how they've grown up, the guilt that they've felt, the relationships that they've had, and all of the things that they have to often, the questions and the confusions and things that they live with, and the things that they have to sort of give up, the cost of it. And the other thing is, I actually agree with you on one thing. I mean, we obviously don't agree in terms of the faith thing, but when you talk about Ramadan, right, and you talk about actually reading the words, there is a power in that. Like Ramadan fasting, I wrote about this in my book. The argument for being a cultural Muslim, that even though I am an atheist now, there are things like the feasts of Ramadan, the community, the families getting together, the way that fasting sort of, people like fasting, right? There's a lot of different ways to do it.
Yeah.
I mean,
so
they've
those
proven
things
all
are
the health benefits of it. I mean, it's
well,
like the
that's
ritualistic.
That's arguable, but but I'm not
of
gonna.
course it is.
Okay, but I have a lot of questions, Ali. Can you make your point?
Yeah, but no, my point was that my point is to the audience that I think that this is like, and having you on and telling your story is very powerful. It explains to people that, when we're having these discussions, we also have to incorporate the human element. We can't just speak purely, from a term of, well, this is right. I mean, that's important. It's important to do. That is a lot of the conversation, but it's also we have to at least account for the experience, the human experience aspect of it.
Right.
So my question is this: do you think you're looking for the truth, or are you looking for comfort?
The truth.
The truth.
Absolutely.
And if the truth is uncomfortable, you would accept it?
Yes.
And how certain are you right now that you feel like you come up to the right conclusion? Like that this is the right answer, that Islam is the right answer? Are you certain? Are you skeptical?
I am 100% certain that there is only one God. I am 100% certain that Muhammad was his prophet.
Okay.
There are other things involved that I'm not 100% certain about.
Okay, so let's just treat these separately from each other. I'm going to ask you later, what are you not certain about? But for the first part, where there is a God and Muhammad is his prophet, that's all you need, by the way, to be Muslim, right? Everything else is just secondary. But how are you certain about that?
I say I'm certain. I personally feel certain about that. I wouldn't claim that for other people, but for me, I feel 100% certain about that.
Yeah, but how is it that you feel 100% certain about it? Like, what makes you 100% certain about it?
I have, as far as God goes, I've had a connection, or I've been drawn to him for as long as I can remember. It's always been there, no matter what I was doing. It's always been that I have sought God, and while I may change religions, or I may change the route that I go to find him, I don't ever see that I will not believe in God.
Mm-hmm.
So
and I don't know how to explain that. It just is what it is, and it's always been there.
So it's mostly is it based on so it's based on a feeling rather than an actual proof or an evidence. Is that fair to say?
Well, I feel like we have evidence everywhere, but I feel like it can be explained away in lots of different ways. But I feel like there's evidence everywhere. But yes, it is also a feeling, and there is a deep connection there. That's I've been working on it for a long time.
So, would you? Sorry, I want to talk about this deep connection. Just want okay. Let's say that if there is no God, okay, do you think, and that is the truth, do you think, given that you value this deep connection that you have with God, is that correct? You value it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Do you think if the truth is that God is not real, would it be morally a good thing or a bad thing for somebody that knows the truth that there is no God to try to convince you that there is no God, given that if you are ever convinced, you're going to lose something that you value so much, however, you will also get the truth? Do you think if you were at a position that's at somebody that is an atheist, that doesn't believe in God, right? Do you think them trying to convince you that there is no God, do you think that would be something right or wrong, given that like you value something so much and they're taking that away from you?
I can't see how taking God away from anybody is a positive.
But you also said you value the truth.
True. For me personally, I can't speak for other people, but if somebody had concrete evidence that he did not exist, I would want to know.
Okay, Ali, go ahead.
So, I also had a couple of questions, and I'm just interested because I think that you're on a journey, and it feels like, and there's something that's really, I always find that just very sort of inspiring, no matter what the journey is. That's why I like hearing your story. But when you say God, you've always been trying to seek God. There's different types of belief that people have in God. So one is the belief in a personal God or a theistic God, which is a God who listens to you, who's on your side, who answers your prayers, who blesses your marriage, who takes care of you when you're in trouble. And then there is just the idea of a higher intelligence. So why is everything so fine-tuned in the universe? Why does everything make sense? Well, I may not completely understand it. I don't know what the purpose is. I don't know if this being is talking to me, but I do feel like there's a higher intelligence out there. So do you know if it's, which one are you more inclined towards, or are you open to both ideas in a way?
I feel like there is a creator of this universe that wants to have a very personal relationship with each one of us.
Okay, so it's a theistic God, right?
Yes.
Okay. So the other thing I wanted to know was when you first converted to Islam. So you said that you had this friend, the Palestinian Muslim friend, who just, I guess, presented himself by example, and that impressed you.
Yes.
And then there was there's a woman, a Muslimah, who helped you do the Shahada and so on. So as I saw, there were pictures. There's some pictures of you where you were wearing the hijab and everything like that. So is that something you did as an identity thing, or was that a part of your journey where you started maybe as a more traditional Muslim and then moved on to the Reform type thing?
I put on hijab. I converted in June. I put hijab on for the first time at the end of July. So, I chose the hottest part of the year to cover from head to toe for the first time. That was fun. That was a lot of fun. I did that for 2 months, and I just wanted to be authentic. I just wanted to be true to it. And so I tried it. And it's not easy here whatsoever.
In Tennessee, you mean in Nashville?
Yeah, there's nobody. I don't see hijabis running around. I got pulled over once because of it. It was just, it wasn't a lot of fun.
Yeah.
But I was prepared for that. I was prepared for the backlash. I don't lay down and take things easily.
What did they say? The cop.
This is Tennessee, Armin. This isn't Canada. Like, I'm interested. Not only in this, not only in the hear the story of when you were pulled over, but also when during those 2 months when you wore the hijab, how were you treated differently compared to when you didn't wear it? But let's start with the pulling over story.
Yeah.
How did that happen?
I was not breaking any laws whatsoever. It was a 30-mile-an-hour road, and the cop, I passed her when she was at a stop sign. She saw me. She pulled out behind me, followed me down this road, and then she pulled up to the left of me and looked in at me and threw on her lights. And I was doing nothing wrong. There was no reason to pull me over. And she was like, "Oh, I thought you were drunk." You thought I was drunk. And she made comments like, "I bet you're pretty hot in that, aren't you?" I mean, it was just...
She did?
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
But
no ticket.
And what were some of the... Did you notice when you put on the hijab as somebody who never wore it, so you knew what life was like, going out and just sort of fitting in, looking like everybody else? I don't mean that in a racist way. I'm not saying all white people look alike. Okay. That's not what I'm saying. Yeah, but in the sense that you didn't wear hijab, and then now you're wearing hijab and you're walking around, you're going to do groceries or whatever you're doing. Was there a difference living in Tennessee? What kind of difference?
It wasn't so much. It wasn't like aggression. It was more of an avoidance. Like people avoided me. I definitely stuck out. And that honestly was the hardest part for me, was sticking out like that. I don't...
Right.
To be fair, that's the point. To be fair, though, that's the point of hijab.
It is, but when you're the only one in town,
right.
That's a special kind of stick out. Like, especially when it's Nashville, Tennessee, and most everybody is Republican.
Right. No, sorry, I didn't mean that sticking out part is not the point of hijab. I mean the people avoiding you part is part of the...
but I mean, it was...
Yeah, it wasn't...
It was a different sort of...
Actually, you're right. It's not... It's supposed to people avoid you because they're not sexually attracted to you because of their job, not avoid you because they're scared of you. So no, it's not the same.
Right. Yeah, it's not the same. So I was just going to say that.
Right.
So you went through 2 months of this. You're wearing this. You notice these changes, that you're being treated differently. What ultimately made you take it off? What was the next step in your journey?
There were a couple reasons. One of them was because I did see there was aggression in some men's eyes that I was not okay with. I have 2 autistic sons in my bunch, and I just kept thinking, I have to make it home. I have to.
Oh, wow. Yeah. So aggression as in just men who looked at you, I guess, with hate because they thought you were Muslim?
Oh, yeah.
Jeez.
Yeah, I've not really seen that look.
You'd never seen that look before?
Wow.
And these are just sort of random men who, outside in public, not necessarily people that you know.
Yeah.
What about your family? You said your parents were they're pro-Trump Republicans and so on. How did they respond to were they worried about you, or did they show any concern when you started wearing hijab? Did they know?
They knew only because I saw pictures.
What picture?
It was like a Facebook profile.
Yeah.
And that was my fault. I should have said something to them. But I come from a situation where going against what they believe has never been accepted very well. So I just didn't want to have the argument. So I didn't.
Yeah.
So they did talk to you after 4 months. How was?
Yes. It's avoidance. The whole thing's just avoidance. They don't really talk.
How was that though? After 4 months of not talking, did they talk to you like aggressively or accepting?
No, they just talked to me like they always did, like I was their daughter. There was a lot said when there would be prayers over meals.
Yeah.
Yeah, I felt like they were aimed at me and not God.
I can imagine that on a.
Faroz in the live chat is saying Erin is pure soul regardless of what she believes in. By the way, there's a lot of love for you in the live chat, and these are atheists, okay? So people.
Well, that's a good thing. I didn't expect it to go that way.
Yeah.
But
the fact that you're here and then that you're talking to us and we're having this conversation, this is one reason why I said earlier on, before we went on, that we don't necessarily love to have debates here. We prefer conversations, just because that helps you understand each other rather than trying to. Debates are fun, but rather than proving a point, you're trying to understand.
No, I also love proving a point, but I have a.
And he's going to get.
Armin wants to go off about something. Go ahead.
Yeah. No. I mentioned before we went on live that I like people that change their minds. On even remember I mentioned to you before we went on, I want to just mention this so our audience could hear as well. Even if they change their mind to something that I'm fundamentally in disagreement with, as long as it's not something that is in support of abusing, well, actually Islam is, but as long as they knowingly are not knowingly supporting something that is abusive to other humans or people's rights and stuff. If you change your mind, people, when they change their mind that way, they are part of their very small percentage of humanity that they have admitted that they were fundamentally wrong about something, right? Even if I still don't agree with them, not many people reevaluate their views that much, right? And you mentioned something. You mentioned you're still in the process of discovery right now, right?
Sure.
And
you know as well as I do that you can't just sit down and figure Islam out in a year. It's so in depth. There's so much. Like I'm going through a curriculum right now, and I've read the Quran 3 times. But I'm still learning so much. And I don't. Like I said, I don't see myself ever giving up on the belief in God, but I could change my path,
right,
to getting to Him.
What would you think your life would be like if somebody or something managed to convince you that this whole God thing is just made up, right? Do you think your whole life will fall apart? You would be devastated. You would have no emotional support, or do you think you will just learn to accept it and you will adjust?
I think probably a little bit of all of it. When I moved from Christianity to Islam, it was for about a week. It felt like a death. It was brutal, just brutal. And I think it would probably feel like that, maybe even maybe even longer. But I think that I would just accept it. So after I went through the morning,
right?
Yeah.
So if you imagine if the person that you met that was emotionally very stable and very friendly to you, if they ended up by chance being
named Armin.
Yeah.
No,
Armin's.
no, somebody else. But they were an atheist, right?
Yeah.
Do you think that might have led you in the same way to atheism, and then you would maybe instead of 1 week recovery mode, you would have maybe like a 1 month recovery mode, and today you might have been an atheist instead of a Muslim? Do you think that could have just gone?
I have atheist friends. I have lots of atheist friends.
Yeah, but they're not emotionally.
Because Armin, it wasn't just like that person that she met, the Muslim man that she met, was just that was sort of a catalyst. But there were also all of these other things, like the questions about Jesus and all of these other things in the story too, right?
Yeah,
it wasn't just that one factor.
Yeah, it wasn't just one thing. It was definitely, yeah. He just happened to answer questions for me that nobody had been able to answer because I was asking all Christians.
Right. I mean, because those questions will also, like the question of, for example, why would God torture his son, right?
Uh-huh.
If the person was an atheist, well, the answer would be like, well, he didn't because there's no God. So that would be another legit answer right there. I don't know. So
yeah,
it could have been as convincing if at that state you met an atheist with the same, because you do have atheist friends, right? But none of them were. This Muslim man gave you like the emotional stability and support that other people haven't been giving that to you in your life, right? I'm just wondering, you're saying if this person was an atheist, you still don't see it convincing you because God is such a cornerstone of your belief system, right? Okay, all right. Ali, go on. So you want to ask?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I wanted to I just want to move on with the story. So you had so you wore the hijab, you took off the hijab, and then later on, now you say that you're sort of leaning towards the Maajid, Nawaz, Irshad, Manji. Reform.
Yeah, and I had said there was a couple of reasons why I took off the hijab. One of them was I got to get back home to my kids. I have to do that. And another was when I was a Christian, the last few years of my life as a Christian were I was a very liberal, left-leaning, feminist Christian. And then I accepted Islam. Month after accepting Islam, I put on the hijab, and there just came a point where I felt like I'd moved backwards. And it was like, okay, my relationship with God, whether I was Christian, whether I'm Muslim, has always been the same. That never changed. Just the path and the learning what he expects of me is what's I'm learning different things. I did not feel, and I still don't really feel that is something that God actually expects of us women.
Well, that's very interesting. Go on.
Well, I feel like in all the Abrahamic religions, there was progressions with time and the changing of just life, and as the years go, things changed and they progressed, and I feel like we have to progress too.
Well, good news. I'm gonna give you some. Well, I don't know. You read the Quran. There's nothing in the Quran that tells you to wear the hijab, right? So, but
there is something in the Bible, though. The Bible actually does say to cover your. This is what's so interesting.
I was going to ask the reason why I said that. I want to ask. I followed up by a question. But what made you think the hijab was anti-woman, like not feminist?
Well, because the reason for doing it doesn't really have anything to do with us. Right. It has everything to do with the men.
Right. So the hijab basically is what you're saying is that the hijab is meant to make men not sexually attracted to women so that they don't rape them. And you're saying it's their responsibility not to rape us, not us. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, and if a rapist is going to rape you, they're going to rape you no matter what you're wearing or what you look like. It doesn't matter.
I see. And what are some, Ali? Your microphone is hitting your shirt.
Sorry.
What are some things about Islam that you're not sure about? Because you said there's some questions that you don't know which way you want to go. There are some things that
I would say my main issue that I have a hard time resolving is mainly in Muslim countries. Just how do we help that situation? How is something that I see as such a peaceful religion, how is it giving people license to hurt so much and control so much?
Yeah.
And do you have an answer for that? Have you come up with anything so far?
That's why I'm following the Reformist Muslims to see. I mean, I don't know.
So
I really don't know.
What's your understanding of Reformed Islam?
Well, to me, it seems as if it is still very much Quranically based and true to Islam, but you take the parts that are causing so much terror and turmoil in people's lives, and you have to reform that to live up to today's standards in our modern world. We shouldn't be going around.
Isn't your understanding that what is in the Quran is the word of God for all time and all people?
Yes.
Okay.
But I also view some of the things that are taken and ran with in the Quran as those were historical situations that were being relayed. And it's not that we should be doing that now, but people take it as that's what we should be doing now.
Wouldn't it be weird for God to include in a book that was meant to be a guide for all people at all times, to include messages that are only specific for a certain group of people at a certain time? Like, it seems like a contradiction, isn't it?
Not really. I mean, because I came from Christianity where there were all kinds of historical stories in the Bible.
But the Christians don't make that claim about the Bible. The Christians don't make a claim that the Bible is the direct word of God meant to be followed by all people at all times.
Actually,
not all Christians.
They say it's God breathed.
Right.
They say
it's God breathed. It's like divinely inspired.
Yeah.
So this is I think where we diverge. Like that's why it's interesting. So let's kind of go through this a bit. Where, my problem with this, right? Where I saw all of the, there are good things in the Quran, there's bad things in the Quran, and the rougher things.
There are no good things in the Quran. Okay.
Yeah.
Go on.
But what I mean is be kind to orphans and all of that stuff. But in any case, so you have. So when I saw the violent passages, when I saw that you're allowed to beat your wife if you fear disobedience as a last resort, or whatever it is, all of those things, and I would hear from I grew up in Saudi Arabia, so I would hear from everybody around me that this is misinterpreted, or it's mistranslated, or it was for a certain time, it doesn't apply now, all of that. I had a hard time squaring that with the concept of infallibility, right? Just the idea that the Quran is. So if someone had said that, the Quran is divinely inspired, then I would find it a lot easier to be able to select things, and say, okay, this obviously doesn't seem like it applies here. God is obviously smarter than me. So, I think that, I can make some sense of this, and I can use my conscience to try and, interpret this in some way or another. Yeah. But when the whole idea that this is a literal word of God and not a word can be changed and it applies for all time. That's what made it. That was the real roadblock in terms of. So, did you ever wonder about that, like in terms of the infallibility thing?
Yes.
So
absolutely, I still question it.
So what about? Sorry, am I? By the way, am I making you uncomfortable in any ways by asking you
No.
these questions? Okay.
Not at all.
Okay, good. Thank you. What about the parts of the Quran that is not about the commandments to people? Because those could be like, well, that's not for everybody. That's for all those people at the time, which also still questionable, because even if you allow slavery for some time and not for all times, I will like, well, slavery was never okay, right? So that's another topic. But the idea of kafirun, the unbelievers, going to hell, because that's not even about what we're supposed to do. That's God is going to do that. Did that ever? Because you read the Quran, you said 3 times so far.
Yes.
So you must have noticed that that's a recurring theme over and over and over and over again in the Quran about what's going to happen to me, to Ali, to almost everybody in the live chat right now, that we're going to have molten lava poured down our throats. We're going to be suffering forever and ever and ever, and we're going to experience God's wrath. What are your views on that?
Do I believe it, or how do I feel about it?
Both.
Yes, I believe it. And I hate it.
Because you said you have a lot of atheist friends. And,
hold on.
Yeah.
But okay, and you hate it, but if you hate it, that means that you don't like what God is doing? I mean, you think it's not, is it, so in your views it's not justified?
I don't think it's for me to question.
Go ahead.
I didn't make the world. In my opinion, he did. It's his to do what he wants to, whether I like it or not.
Is it fair though?
No, I don't feel like it is.
And is it Rahman or Rahim? Do you know what those are? Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, the merciful God, the kind God. I
feel like where I feel like he gives so many opportunities to come to him. I think that's where the mercy comes in.
So imagine if I had a child and I gave so much to her, and I gave her all the opportunities in the world. I was the best parents ever could be, and she came home and she was so ungrateful. She doesn't even acknowledge my existence. If I decide to just take her and put her in the oven because of that, even though I did so much to her, I gave her everything she could possibly want, but because she didn't acknowledge me, because she wasn't thankful, I put her in the oven and I put it at the right temperature so that she doesn't die right away, so that she suffers as long as I possibly could. Not too hot, because I don't want her to die too fast. And she just screams in there, and I just keep the oven door closed. I gave her everything. Do you think I would... What kind of a parent do you think I am if I did that to my child?
I think as a human being, that's a horrible thing. Again, it's God, and I don't think that you can compare what we would do to what he does.
But you question the Christian God for making Jesus suffer. Why can't you question the Islamic God for making billions of people suffer?
I didn't say that I don't question it.
Right.
Or I don't. I said I hate it.
But you said we're not in the place to question God. He's God. He can.
Well, I don't think that I think comparing what you would do and comparing what he would do I don't think it's apples and oranges. I don't think you can compare the two.
I compare apples and oranges all the time. I prefer apples. They're less messy. They're easier to eat. Right? So they're tastier. So
I mean, the entire time that I've had a belief in God, I've always held on to the fact that there are just some things that we're not going to like and we're not going to understand. But that's his prerogative because it's his.
Yeah. Well, I mean, this is also something. It's something Islam has in common with Christianity too, right? There's this idea that Christianity too. If you don't come to Jesus, don't accept him as your savior, then independent and regardless of your deeds and what kind of person you are, you would. I mean, that is the only way to the kingdom of God, right?
Right.
So that's a common thread. So when you said you're exploring reform Islam, so one thing about somebody like Maajid Nawaz and Irshad Manji, both of the names that you mentioned, who are reformists, is that they actually differ from you on this. They also identify as Muslim, as believing Muslims, but they don't acknowledge this idea that anybody who's a non-believer will necessarily go to hell, and they've actually argued this in a lot of detail and made those arguments, and they've got quite a bit of a following, especially among young Muslims in the West who are trying to square that identity of how do I take this something, how you said you wore the hijab and you felt like you took a step backward,
right? So
how do you reconcile that side of it with living in the 21st century? So have you gotten into? I know that you're exploring it, and it might be kind of early.
No,
but
I haven't gotten into that, but it sounds very hopeful, and I'm hoping that when I do get into that, they just blow my mind with it, and I'm able to go, hey, Armin, you're not going to hell.
I think, yeah, I'm pretty confident that Maajid does not want Armin to go to hell, even though there were a couple of times when he may have wished it.
May have told him to.
Well, we all wish Armin. We all wish hell on Armin. Sometimes.
I don't know how because you said you're only recently been involved in all of this. So I don't know if you're familiar with this, because this is something we keep on saying over and over again. Our views on Islam is very different from our views on Muslims, right?
Right, right.
Yes. Our views, like, I consider Islam a disease that needs to die, that needs to end. I think it's anti-human, anti-woman, anti-gay, anti-science, anti-many other good things. Anti-democracy, anti-peace. But yet I
got the memo.
Yeah, but
yeah, that's good. I like this. Keep it.
But it's not just Maajid Nawaz that doesn't want me or Ali or people in the live chat to burn. I think it's most Muslims, even the mainstream Muslims, right? Because we always say most Muslims are better than Islam, the same way that most Christians are better than Christianity. So I just wanted to make sure that you're. Well, I mean, that's a compliment to them. That's because we think their religion is bad, but that doesn't necessarily make Muslims bad. I think they are better. I think Muslims are better, are good people. That's why they're uncomfortable with the teachings of Muhammad, because they're horrible teachings. But I just had a question with regards to you mentioning that you're in discovery, that you're open-minded, that you have questions. How could anybody truly be open to discovery if you're saying that there are certain things that you can't that are out of the realm of questioning because they belong to God? You know what I mean? This is a major problem I have with this whole idea of God, is because it just we're all in the process of understanding and questioning things, but this seems to be like a wall that just is introduced every time we hit to a good spot that we're actually really questioning things. And well, you can't go past this wall because it's God. You don't question God, or you can never understand God. Well, if we can't understand God, then why do we believe in something that we can't even understand? Right, go on.
Okay, so you gave the analogy of being a father and putting your child in an oven. Okay, so I'm a parent of 4 kids. I did not lay everything on them about life at 2 years old. It was a gradual teaching about life. And I feel like that's what God sort of does with us. He reveals things in his time and in his manner. And then I think there's some things that we just won't have those things revealed to us until we're with him. And I just think that's how he works.
I don't know how much slow revealing will ever convince me that anybody would deserve to be tortured for eternity, let alone people just because they don't accept a certain belief system, right? I don't know how much time, millions of years slowly trying to brainwash me. I don't understand, like...
That is honestly the part of both religions that I've been in. That's the part that I hate. I hate it. And so, like I said, I would love to find out that I'm wrong about it.
I mean, it's really hard to prove that wrong, given how big of a theme that's of the Quran that is. Like, to be able to, for reformists to be able to get rid of that part is getting rid of a major theme of the Quran, right? So it's really that's a very difficult job for the reformists. If they manage to get rid of that, they have technically divorced the Quran from Islam, which will not be Islam anymore. Right.
I'm just sitting here even trying to figure out how they can't worked up that.
They can't.
You should look into it. Right. This is a good. I'm actually I'll send you links to the conversations that we had with Maajid and some of the other people. Yeah. So I'll send you links to it so you can actually watch that.
I'm actually very curious to know, because you're gonna go ask them these questions. I'm gonna be very curious to know how they're gonna try to win you over. That's gonna be a fascinating. I want to be a fly on the wall when you're having that discussion with the Reformist Muslims.
Yeah, and I want to say right now, Erin, if I know this has been kind of heavy for you and everything, but we would love to have you back like a few months down the line.
Yes.
And really follow up on this.
Heavy is good. It's fine.
We have been friendly though, right? Like we haven't been disrespectful.
Absolutely. It's been great.
Okay.
Yeah. So I wanted to, we're coming up on an hour now,
and we have to ask a patron.
We have a couple of patron questions, so I wanted to ask you one last thing before we went on to the patron questions, and and this is just about morality, because right now we're talking about things about God's laws that you hate, that you've said. So when it comes to morality, do you think that does religion and faith, does that serve that purpose too? Is it just a purpose of having comfort knowing that there's God out there, or do you feel that human morality is rooted in religion, as in when you grew up as Christian or anything like that? So you don't think that that's an aspect?
No, I don't think that you have to have religion to be moral.
You don't? Okay, so
no.
Yeah, that's interesting, because I was actually going to ask you that. And I'm still going to ask you, is when you read the Quran, right? And it seems like there were things that you found in there. There's a lot of it that obviously moved you. We can see that. But there are things in there that you thought, were that you wanted to question. You're like, okay, you may have doubts about it. Same thing with the Bible. So when you see those things, do you feel like you have an inherent sense of morality that helps you interpret those things in different ways, or do you just look at them and say, well, this is how it is, I don't agree with it, but God said so? You know what I mean?
I think it's kind of both. I think I've reacted both ways to different situations. There's sometimes that I just say, this is how God is, and I'm not going to question that, because that's just how he's gonna work. And it's trusting that he always has our best interest, no matter what we see.
Even if there's a lot of suffering involved, that ultimately there's the best interest.
Yeah. You were raised in Islam. You know what the
Oh yeah, I was
what
raised.
the thought is.
I know what the thought. I've actually I wrote about it in my book. I wrote about my journey when I went through. For me, what you're going through right now was something I went through too, but it was more. For me, it was a transient thing. It lasted for a little while, but then eventually I moved out of it. But
go buy Ali's book before he mentions it a third time in this episode.
I will. Hey, are you on Audible?
Yes,
Or no?
I am.
Yeah.
It's on Audible.
Yeah, okay. I'm
Right.
like Armin. I like to listen to my books.
Yeah, I do too. I actually run and when I do it. Oh, by the way, check out my book if you ever want to. Why?
I was just gonna do that. I was like, I mentioned it right at the outset.
Yeah.
When I was introducing us, I actually mentioned his book, and I forgot to mention mine, which is a sin that I deserve eternal hellfire for. By the way,
before we go to Patreon questions, I just want to say that you are actually one of my favorite people now. Okay, there's.
Oh my gosh! Thank you.
You are. You have a lot of love and kindness in your heart, because there's not that. I mean, when I mentioned eternal torture for me and Ali, you teared up. You know, I haven't. You must have a lot of love for people to be able to feel something like that. You know. So, I really appreciate that. I mean, I've never seen. I have had this discussion with so many Muslims, right? About, is it fair for me to burn in hell or Ali to burn in hell? And I've never once remember any of them tearing up over the idea of me burning in hell. So I really felt something when you teared up. So thank you for that. But all right.
You're welcome.
yeah. Okay, so let's go to the patron questions, and a lot of these are just comments. I mean, Azad is sending hugs.
Yeah.
And so Azad is also okay. He also asked a question that I think we covered. Did reading the Quran spring up different questions, and how did you reconcile with those, if there were any?
We did.
So I think we talked about that. Yeah. Then James is asking, he's like, I'd like to understand how Erin squares her identity as a feminist with the misogyny in Islam. So this is actually something I was thinking of too. But when you talked about Christianity, you said that you were a Christian feminist, and then when you talk about taking off the hijab, you said that was also a part of it. You're the fact that you identify as a feminist. So,
I will say this. I don't actually identify as a feminist anymore, and that is not because my views on any of it has changed. It's because of the way feminism has changed.
Okay. Right.
So let's say so let's not use the word feminism because it's loaded.
That should be a quote. That we should quote that and put like. That was fantastic. That was phrased in a beautiful way. However, I do think that sometimes I feel like maybe we should fight and take back the label feminist, but I don't know if it's possible anymore. Just like a lot of people call themselves classical liberals, and I don't like it because they're like, no, I'm a liberal. Like, let's not give up our labels so easily, right? So, but it might be too late for feminists. But
it's happened with a lot of things. Like social justice is something that obviously is what Martin Luther King and everything was all about. But it's just it's a completely different thing now. But so let's not forget about the semantic. Let's talk about equality of men and women, equal opportunities for men and women, equal rights. So there is this thing that, I mean, whether in Christianity it's like that, in Islam it's like that. You have a male prophet. The God is referred to with a male pronoun. All of the prophets that were sent were men. The caliphs are men. If you're Shia, then all the imams are men. So how do you and then you have the passages in the Quran as well. So how do you square your identity as a feminist with some of these sexist and misogynistic aspects in Islam?
Women rights activists. Yeah.
Woman rights.
Yeah.
You know what? I know this always gets the eye rolls and the assuming that I just didn't read it right, but I didn't read misogyny. I just didn't. No.
Even in the wife beating part, or the capturing of.
Well, and Okay, so I had it explained to me. Actually, I think that I read an article about that it didn't actually mean beating.
Oh
That
my
it
God.
was.
Okay, read Ali's book. He
Here we
has
go.
it.
I knew you were gonna roll your eyes at me.
Okay.
I'm not rolling my eyes.
I'm not gonna actually. Ali has the best explanation of this
I
in
would
his
love to hear
book. Yeah, so I'm not going to go into the detail because nobody has explained this verse better. I haven't seen any better explanation than of this. Why it definitely means beating. I mean, to anybody that speaks Arabic and is being honest, they know that it means beating, right? But
Okay.
to non-English, to non-Arabic speakers, the best way for them to understand why this definitely means beating is to read that one page from Ali's book. He does a fantastic job at explaining it. Yeah. Okay.
Oh my God, I don't even have to do any work here. Gee, this is crazy.
Right.
This is just promoting his book for me. I'll actually send you a copy. So
Okay.
Thank you.
So, and this would be a great thing after after you read it, or even those certain parts of it. You don't have to read the whole book. I don't think I have myself, but but yeah, once you, it would be great to have you on.
Just
and
really,
talk about this.
really
Yeah, I
quickly,
will.
that wife beating part is not the only part of the Quran. I mean, if you want to include the hadiths, then holy hell, like you have opened the Pandora's box.
That's
But-
interesting. I'm not crazy about.
Okay, but even the Quran,
Yeah.
the Quran, it tells you that you can take sex slaves in war, right? And even the Quran by
Yeah.
itself also tells you that a woman's testimony in court is half of a man, and a woman's inheritance from family is half of a man. So it's not just the wife beating part. But yeah,
Yeah.
just wanted to add those. And
Thanks
No,
for
no,
throwing
no.
them in. Thank you.
I have to. Sorry, I
So-
can't resist myself.
No, that's what this is for. That's what the conversation
Yeah.
is for.
Right,
Yeah.
right. Okay, okay.
Erin knows who she's talking to.
Right,
so,
right,
You know,
right.
we were expected. We talked about this.
Okay.
So, a blonde infidel is asking, just listening now, does Erin want to believe true things? Is the truth important to her? And you already answered that.
You already answered
Yeah,
it.
absolutely.
You want to do that.
Yes, I do.
And then Faraz, again, Erin read her comment. She's pure soul, regardless of what she believes in.
And
Azad is asking, was there anyone in the family or extended family who understood you? Is there anybody who... That's a good question.
Wow. Like before I converted, or just in general, or I
Both.
guess-
Before you converted, after you converted, who's kind of been there and tried to understand you or understood you?
Wow. I did not feel very understood by my parents. I do believe that they tried,
oh, that's nice.
but
Yeah.
there still is a very big disconnect between my opinions and theirs. It's just it's night and day about almost everything, it seems like.
Yeah.
As far as
Your husband?
other family member, yes. Yeah. Yeah, he's not converted. My children have not. I've not pushed any of that on any of them. That's their business. But as far as understanding me, yes, we have a very tight knit. The family that I made is very tight knit, very tight knit, and yes, I completely feel understood.
Okay, that's
No,
good.
that's great. How did your when you converted? So you had the situation with your husband. You got to the point of divorce, almost, and then
Yeah, we didn't finish that story.
yeah. And after you converted to Islam, and
I
how was his
converted
reaction?
I converted to Islam while we were separated. And I say separated. We were still living in the same house, but we weren't acting married whatsoever. I was absolutely 110% done. There was no way he could have convinced me to stay. And there was one weekend that I had to work out of town, and I left that Saturday, and all day long, I couldn't quit crying. I know you guys probably can't believe that, but I was having a hard time. And I kept feeling like God was telling me to go home, and not just go home from work, go home to your husband. And it was just like, what in the world? Like, I felt completely justified in the divorce. My family was behind me. I was supported. It made more sense to divorce than to stay. And that whole day, I just could not get over that feeling. And it kept getting more intense and more intense and more intense. And I finally just said, I have to go. I have to go. I called my husband and I said, I'm coming home. I'm coming home to you.
Oh, no.
We're going to fix this. And I got home. And he was in the driveway. And he just held me. And we both just cried. And he said, I've been praying for you all day. And he said, that's the first time that I've ever prayed and it's been answered. And that's the only way I can describe or explain what was happening to me. It was like God was absolutely saying, you are, just get your ass in the car and go home. And from that point on, he started therapy. He got on medication for his anxiety and depression. He got a job. It's been pretty fantastic.
Well,
that's amazing.
Yeah.
That's really, and I'm really, really, really happy for you. Right. But so
you did it. You did this.
You don't believe it was God doing it, but I'm just telling you.
Well, I'm actually. It's not. Well, it's even better than that. My version of what happened was even better than that. My version of the story.
Oh, was it?
Yeah, my version of the story is that you fixed it. It was you. You did it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So, Anne is asking, okay, well, so this is a comment. She's saying, Erin, I hope you find your way out of belief in hell, not for my sake as an atheist, but for yours. I think it'd be so painful to believe that, and I don't wish that pain on you. And I remember struggling with that belief as well. It's one of the toughest thing for me to reconcile. It was really difficult. Yeah. Mahmoud is asking, can you please, okay, so he's saying, did you ever feel that there was any Christian guilt that contributed to your conversion? So I know that you struggled with the whole idea of Jesus being killed on the cross, right? So was there any guilt involved with that was, and you found that, no?
No.
Okay. And then Azad is asking, what can be one thing that can derail you from Islam?
Wow. Just if it was proven to me that it was not factual. I mean, that's like I said, I just want to know the truth. I want the true path to God. And if it is proven to me that that's not the true path to God, then I'll get right off of it.
And you think you're going to be fine, though, if that's proven to you? Like, it's not going to destroy your life or anything?
No, it won't destroy my life.
Okay.
But, I mean, change is always uncomfortable, and change can hurt, but it's necessary.
Because a lot of people come to us, and, because we're on the path of, at least I am, of, fighting religion, right? And a lot of people come to people like me who are extremely anti-religious, and they're like, if it's helping somebody, even if it's not true, why take that away from them? That's what they say to people like me. And I always think like people just don't underestimate how easy people. I think the truth is always the better way to.
Yeah,
face.
no, I always prefer the truth, even the
Right.
cold hard truth. Yeah.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, the truth is the best way to get the results that you want from your life, right?
Yeah, I think in general people are lazy about finding out the truth.
Right.
Look at politics. I mean,
Yeah.
people are just
Oh
lazy.
man.
That's best
Yeah,
example.
let's open that can of worms.
No,
Let's-
no, but that's
let's
a
not.
but that's a good example.
Yeah, I was actually going to say that, when he said that what's the one thing that would derail you from Islam, I was going to make it, what would make you the Mitt Romney of the Republican Party? But that's what I was going to say. You voted against.
Mom jeans.
That's
what we've been following.
Anne is saying, Erin, I hope you find your way out of belief in hell. Not for my sake as an atheist, but yours. I think it'd be so painful to believe that, and I don't wish that pain on you.
Yeah, I already read that, Armin.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Awkward.
It really sank in, though, this time.
Okay.
Yeah,
See?
when he reads it.
Yes, I read it better.
It's that sexy Iranian accent.
My voice is horrible. People tell me my voice is horrible.
Who tells you that?
Man, I will not listen to this a second time. I promise you that. I don't want to hear myself. Mm-mm.
You sound great.
You sound great.
Like Adam Driver, I will walk out of that room.
I still haven't seen that movie.
Azad is saying, she should become a patron on Patreon? No, that's fine.
Yeah.
Anne is saying, yes, Armin, she seems like a lovely person, and my heart went out to her seeing her react like that. Ah, that's sweet.
Yeah.
You didn't read that one, did you? No. Okay.
So,
by the way, just to let you know, when Ali speaks, I just tune out because that's why I didn't know if he asked.
I know. Yeah.
No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
This has gone so differently than what I planned. Like I was just so expecting to have a new
Down and
asshole
dirty?
ripped.
Wait, no.
Yeah.
We'll do that next time.
No, Ali, wait. I didn't hear what
I
she
appreciate
said.
it.
I didn't hear what she said. What you expected? What?
I expected you to rip me a new asshole. Like I really did. Like I expected you to just let me have it about Islam.
Yeah, one thing about Armin, and I'll tell you this, and this is something he said before, that if you come here as a believer, as someone who truly authentically believes in what you say, we just want to talk to you. But Armin is really, really hard on atheists who defend reform.
Right.
And everybody in our audience knows
here's
that.
the difference. Here's the difference between Erin. Here's the difference between you who defend reform Islam and atheists who defend Islamic reform. Okay, you actually believe that this is the truth. Okay, and I have respect for you because whether or not we agree on what the truth is, you believe in that the truth matters, right?
Yeah.
But imagine atheists who think God is not real, Islam is fake, but we should defend Islamic reform because these people might kill us or something. Like they're supporting something that they know it's a lie.
It's that they believe is a lie, right. And they're saying that we should use this because the underlying assumption is that general people are they're just too dumb to understand the real thing. So that's just kind of. Which is a very sinister thing to do.
Right.
You're right.
And to be fair, people like Maajid and everything, they don't fall into that category because they do identify as believing Muslims as well.
Yes.
Right. So, and that's why we have a lot of respect for them too. And we're very aligned with them. Have you gotten a chance to meet now that you are a Muslim? Find a Muslim community or a mosque or something in Tennessee or where you associate with them or the larger community aspect?
I have 2 Muslim friends in town, and I have not made it to a masjid yet. There is one 45 minutes away. Huh?
Make your own. Make a tiny little masjid.
Yeah.
There's one 45 minutes away from me. And part of the problem has been that I was always working on Fridays. And then I got my Fridays kind of off to where I could do that. And straight up, I'll just be completely honest with you. It's total social anxiety. Is the reason why I haven't stepped foot in one yet.
Right.
Just total social anxiety. So.
Okay. Yeah, it was. You know, Rami. I think his name is Rami Youssef. He's the.
Love him.
He's the guy who got the Golden Globe recently.
Have you watched that show?
Yeah, I love the show. I actually saw his stand-up special, right, which was called. Oh crap! I can't remember what it was called, but it's on HBO, and I thought it was brilliant. So obviously he's a Muslim.
I love him.
I don't necessarily agree, but one thing he said about the Friday, how the holy day for Muslims is Friday, whereas for Christians it's Sunday. He said Christians have it so easy. The weekend's over, you've done all of that stuff, and then you've done you've partied, and then noon on then Sunday you go to church and it's okay, repented. But Friday, it's like in the afternoon you're going to the mosque. He said Friday at noon you do the mosque, and then in the evening you have to go out to party. Yeah, and he's like he talked about that sort of being an American Muslim and living in America, but being a Muslim, Friday you have to be religious, and then you do all the partying afterwards when it should be the other way around. Right. I thought it was hilarious.
Did you see his stand up on Stephen Colbert where he was talking about getting a Hogwarts letter from ISIS?
No, I didn't. But
you
said my two favorite things. Favorite as in interested in Hogwarts and ISIS is great.
Yeah, you should watch it. It's good.
So, by the way, Aaron, just one last thing. I want to react to what Faraz is saying in the live chat because I don't like it. Faraz is saying, "Wow, I kind of admire her faith, even though I don't believe." Stop it, Faraz. Stop doing that. Okay, you could admire people without. Faraz, you could admire people without admiring their faith. Okay, it's possible to do that. You don't have to admire someone's faith. If you like, and it's we're losing our audience, Ali. We're losing our audience.
Yeah.
Anna's saying, have any of you seen Little Mosque on the
yes,
Little Mosque on the Prairie?
On the Prairie?
Little Mosque on the Prairie. It's so funny.
I actually never watched it.
She continues saying, small town with a tiny mosque, renting space in a church. I love that show. Mm-hmm. Oh, I might watch that show. Okay.
But I would really recommend Rami. I think that the American Muslim experience, that is it,
Yes.
It's just fantastic. It is a great so good. And one more thing I wanted to say. You mentioned a word when you described that friend of yours, the Muslim guy. And you said he was Muslimish.
Yes.
Okay, so I have to plug this, and this is something that both Armin and I favor a lot more than the reform thing. Is this idea of Muslimish? There is a group in the U.S. called Muslimish, and it is for people.
Your friend, doesn't your friend?
Yeah, my friend Wissam Sharafuddin. I don't know if you know him, but he is one of the co-founders of it. Him and Ibrahim Abdullah. Wissam was on this podcast. I'll send you the link to that too. Right. And he just everything that you're talking about. It is a group for questioning Muslims, and former Muslims to be able to have these kinds of conversations. Exactly what we're doing right now.
Yes.
So
it's better go that because they have Muslims as well. They have Muslims, ex-Muslims, people in the between, the people that are not sure, and it's a very accepting environment, and it's a great place to better than a mosque, I would say, to ask these questions.
Muslimish is the name of the group.
Muslimish is the name of the group.
Yes.
Okay.
That's because they wanted to encapsulate exactly everything that you've talked about here. That's what this group is about.
It's like we're Muslim-ish. It's kind of like that. It's pretty good. So it's pretty good.
Is your friend an ex-Muslim, or is he still a believer?
He is sort of. He's into reform. He goes back.
He was not. He wasn't into reform. Anyway.
No, he's not. I don't think. No, he's not. He's not a believer.
But the group is very welcoming to all people. All people that are have questions about Islam, or are just full-on Muslim, but they just want to mention some of the things that they're not sure about. It's a pretty accepting group.
Cultural Muslims, deistic Muslims.
By the way, cultural Muslim is very... I support cultural Muslims. Muslims that don't believe in Islam, but they want to keep the community, they want to keep the practice, rituals. They like that, but all the rituals, all the community without the belief. That is my version of... That's fantastic, you know. So, anyways.
Yeah. So, Erin, where can people find you if anybody wants to reach out to you, maybe talk to you? You're on Twitter, Facebook? Is there anything you want to give out, or are you?
Yeah, I'm on Facebook. If you want to send me a message, probably the best way to find me would be on my public page, which is Mother Loving Autism. MUTHA Loving Autism.
Mother Loving Autism. Oh, you know what? I forgot to mention, you are an autism blogger, right?
Yeah.
And So, that's great.
You know, maybe you could,
we can totally
talk about normalizing, you know, mental health issues in Islamic countries. That would be a huge service.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right, go check out her page and support her. Give her a like, follow her, all that. We should link Ali. Send me the link to include in the description.
I will. I'm gonna send that. I've noted them all down. So, Erin, thank you so much for coming on this podcast. This was really amazing. Me. Yeah, and we do hope to talk to you again.
Yes.
And,
absolutely.
To our patrons, I just want to give a message to the patrons. Everybody's here. Thank you. If you are listening to this on iTunes later on, if you're not a patron, please consider getting on patreon.com/SAME and becoming a patron. You can do it for as little as $1 a month. And if you can't do that...
And if we get 500 patrons, what are we going to do, Ali?
We are going to start translating a lot of these podcasts that you hear into where our audience is. Arabic, Urdu, Farsi, Malay, Turkish, all of that.
Right. Because now a lot of people in these countries, in Iran, in Saudi Arabia, in Egypt, in Pakistan, in Indonesia, they're listening to us, so we can see that there's a demand for our show, but the only English-speaking people in these countries are listening to us. So we're going to be able to reach out a much larger audience if we get to translate our shows.
Right. And finally, if you can't financially donate, that's perfectly fine. Share it on your social media. If you like what you hear, go on iTunes and give us a review. So that is the most important thing. It'll take you a second. If you're listening to this, just go on iTunes, give us a review so that more people can listen to this. Erin, thank you very much. Really, really appreciate it. And
thank you guys.
Thank you.
Everybody out there, we'll see you next time.
Bye.
The secular jihadists have been made possible thanks to the Illuminati and the covert support of Israel and the CIA. That's what we have been told, but we haven't received our checks yet. If you like what we do, please support us. Share the podcast with your friends. Write and tweet us with topic and guest suggestions. Or head over to secularjihadist.com and give $1 or more for exclusive access to live video. Have your questions read and answered on the air, and more. Till next time, may the flying spaghetti monster be with you.